Whoa. Okay, you know what? I've literally just finished speaking and making a video, and I'm just going to go on and do another one straight away. Oh my god, 2 at a time, because I feel warmed up now. So, global awakening. The awakening, it is real. It's happening right now, and it is continuing to gather speed. This is something that I have been feeling for quite a while now, and been aware of for a while, and also, you know, through understanding various aspects of different types of knowledge and coming into contact with different kinds of information. This is something that I was aware could well happen, but actually being able to see it happening, being able to feel it happening, and seeing it speed up by such a degree, it's quite exciting. So I wanted to make this video right now, before I'm, you know, left behind, as I often am, because I just don't come out and say a lot of these things that I feel and see happening in the world. So what I mean, the awakening, right now on this planet, globally, and in many different ways, even in, I reckon, in ways that a lot of people who are actually doing it aren't even aware of. I even see this when I look through my local newspaper now. I'm just like, wow, there are people waking up even here, and things are happening even here in this local small community in the countryside that are a reflection of this global rise in human consciousness. And it might seem almost to some people like just common sense, but it's happening in so many different ways, and it is gathering steam. And basically what it's about, and there's many different layers of this, some people are waking up to the fact that we're living on a planet, shock horror, that has precious resources, and they're becoming very awakened ecologically and wanting to do things to combat the ill effects of dangerous practices that are damaging our planet and our ecosystems and our habitats and animals and things like that. Other people are waking up to the fact that our systems that we're living in, especially our systems in the West, these mighty capitalist bastions, are pretty fucked up. They're pretty messed up. They have gone too far, and things are going to have to change. Things, I mean, they're going to have to change, whether it happens in a nice way or if it happens in a bad way. I'm not talking so much about revolution, I'm just talking about, you know, sometimes when things change, even for the better, there is going to be a period of growing pain whilst the new form emerges from the ashes of the old one, like the phoenix coming out of the flame, or the caterpillar coming out of its chrysalis into a butterfly. You know, that is quite a hard and tough experience. Even when you, like I said, even when you're growing from a child into an adult, you have those growing pains. And I can see, and I just know, I can't really explain how, but I just know that that is coming, and it's going to come sooner rather than later. Yeah, the reason I want to make this video is because for a long time I was feeling quite anxious, I guess you would say, and there is still some form of anxiety, and I was feeling a bit hesitant, a bit afraid, and quite down, and actually quite a negative, building a quite a negative mindset of there being some terrible, terrible things happening in this century, and like this planet has never seen before, or like we've never known before, as these generations who have, let's be honest, we've had a pretty largely uneventful time ever since the end of World War II. And I was like, you know, I think this could be some really bad shit hitting the fan soon, because, well, just by its very nature, there are other people on this planet who don't like the majority of humanity waking up to all these things. It's not good for their hold on power. But to go back to this, talking about the awakening and this global rise in consciousness, I'm actually starting to feel that the war has already been won. And wherever I look now, and I've even had some experience of it when I've gone away and I've done some volunteer projects in various places in the world, and being with other people from other countries and mixing with people from other cultures, there is this real feeling of enthusiasm and positivity that humanity is starting to take its power back into its own hands. And it is starting to realize that there are different ways of doing things, there are different systems, and it's time to build and put into place these new forms of society, these new forms of governance, these new forms of trading, all of these new things to replace an archaic system that is based on old hierarchical top-down power monopolies, which now have reached their zenith, have reached like as much power as they could possibly have. I mean, I'm sure they still believe there's more to go, but it's almost like, I think they got lazy or whatever. But people have just, this was going to happen regardless. And this is, like I said, there's different levels to this. There's people just becoming aware of changing things around where they live, of changing local governments, of changing how, I don't know, even things like people becoming more aware of recycling, you know, stuff like that. But then there's a whole other level, a much, not higher, but deeper level. People waking up to the fact that they are, as a person, as a human being, there is this part of themselves, there is a central piece of themselves that transcends the limits of the human body and also the mind. So this is a spiritual awakening, which is also spreading and is also happening in a different way than any of our current religions and monotheistic religions have presented this awakening in the past. And it's all a process. It's all a process that has been happening for millennia. You know, most people understand the concept of evolution and biological evolution, evolution of form, evolution of physical, material, biological things like our bodies evolving through time. But at the same time there has been another evolution happening, one that has been happening unseen to the human eye, and that is the evolution of human consciousness. And there have been many different forces playing upon this evolution and shaping this evolution, and many different small beacons of light carrying this evolution forward and forward and forward and building up this conscious awakening that is now peaking now during this time of high energy and high conscious evolutionary peak, basically. And now that is starting to manifest into the material world, and we're starting to see things happening. Some things seem to be bad. There's things happening around the world which seem to be a reflection of great instability. There are riots, there is confusion, there is going to be law breaking down in certain parts of the world. And that, like I say, is going to be the growing pains. That is going to happen. And maybe the people who are not so tuned into this are going to be the ones getting caught up in that. I'm not saying this from a point of being judgmental or anything. I'm just saying that when anything changes on such a dramatic level, there are things that are going to happen that at first don't seem to be positive, but looking back with hindsight are a reflection of those changes that are happening underneath. Like when you go through puberty and your spots start erupting on your face, it's pretty shitty, it's not nice, you don't want that to happen, you don't like it, but it's because it's a reflection of all these hormones inside your body changing and the effects that these have, you know. But there's a bigger picture going on, there's a bigger reason why that's happening, and yeah, you might have acne for a few years, but eventually, you know, you're growing as a person. So this is happening on a conscious level, and there are groups of people now all around the world who are waking up to this and are going around and starting to realize there are different ways of living, and also there's different ways of experiencing life. I'm feeling this every day now. Even today I've had moments where I've started to just look around and I'm starting to feel a heightened awareness of reality. I'm starting to notice certain things are looking different. My eyesight and how I perceive things and how I'm relating to the thinking and the voice in my head is changing. I'm starting to feel that there's a space beginning to appear between those things. And in that space, reality starts to take on a much more vivid form of perception and a more vivid way of relating. Because one thing that's going to happen is people are going to realize that so much of the mind stuff that we have become conditioned to believing is the normal way to see reality and make sense can be done away with. I'm not saying just people staring into space and not thinking anymore, but I'm talking about raising your consciousness to realizing that reality is just this ever-present moment of experience, and the only time that you can ever really become aware of that is when you start to cut through all of the mind stuff and realizing that you are pretty much responsible for everything. Responsible for your suffering, for your emotions, for your anxieties, for your problems. As Eckhart Tolle says, he says that about this life, the story, this life story that we all carry on our heads, the story of our life that we're always having to go back to, and it's where all the drama is created, it's where all the pain and all the suffering comes from, is you have life, you have reality that's there, that's ever present, it always has been present, it always will be present, it's always open for you to experience. But so few people, for such huge portions of humanity's development, weren't aware of that because of the story inside of the head, the life story, the ego, the identification, the fears, the anxieties, thinking about the future, thinking about the past, and completely missing out on the reality of life and the existence of life. Now people might hear this and they just go, what a load of bullshit, what a load of new agey shit, waffle, what a load of mumbo jumbo, whatever. And of course, if you're trying to intellectualize that, if you're trying to understand that by thinking about it, if you're judging that by hearing it and going, well, this doesn't make much rational sense to me, then of course it doesn't mean anything, because I'm talking about an awakening that is happening on a completely new paradigm of human perception, a much more experiential human perception, but an unquestioning one, and not unquestioning in the sense of just believe whatever you're told, but experiential experience that can only be experienced by you, and only from that standpoint can you start to wake up and realize these things that have been kept and passed down in many spiritual traditions throughout the entire world. And this awakening is happening, in so many, like I say, so many multifaceted ways. People are becoming more aware of the diet they're eating. They're becoming more awake to the fact that so much of the mainstream food, processed food, is fucking bad for you. It literally takes life away from you rather than adding life to you. Changing diets, changing, how you work, what jobs you do, what kind of people you hang around with, what you start to view as being important. Realizing that happiness is not attained through a materialistic society and through trying to grasp things. So much. And it's speeding up. This process is speeding up. Realizing that trying to govern societies with just a very tiny, small group of people who say they know what's best for us, and towing the line, waking up to the fact that society is not reality. Live in the real world, man. What is the real world? Society, social conditioning, things that you've been told since you were a young child, going to educational systems, being indoctrinated with a way of thinking, with a way of believing that your self-worth is dependent on getting pieces of paper, that say, oh yes, you have achieved this score because you managed to remember some things you read in a book and then regurgitate it onto a test paper. This means that your life now has this, you're allowed to work this kind of job, you're allowed to earn this kind of money. Well done, you pass. People are waking up that so much of this is bullshit. It's not about anarchy, it's not about just throwing everything out. It's about coming to a deeper understanding and coming to a realization that life can be so much more. Life can be incredible. And you know, naysayers will always come along and say no, no, and we'll try and shoot it down. But I literally went through an experience recently that showed me how incredible life could be on this planet with other human beings, and I saw and felt and experienced a connection with other human beings that was incredible, that just was so authentic, that was so real, and just so much of that conditioning and so much of that repression that is bred onto us from society. And I'm not someone who advocates blaming everything on society. I really believe in radical self-responsibility regardless of how bad things are. But at the same time, you have to realise the damage that can be done. You know, we're all susceptible to that. And I witnessed that, and it was just like, this is amazing, this is incredible. I've never felt this connection with another group of human beings. And these are just normal people. You know, there was nothing special, this wasn't high and mighty, this wasn't kind of some lofty spiritual exercise. This was just normal people just connecting in an incredible way. Incredible amount of love there, unconditional love and support. And I was just like, this is incredible, this is amazing. If this was magnified throughout society, and it is, because this is what this awakening is all about, you know, this is happening in so many different ways. People are just becoming more aware, they're asking more questions about life, and there are more people out there who are starting to provide answers. And there is a sea change happening. Whether you feel it or not, or you believe it or not, you know, things are gonna start changing. And if you understand this, if you're connected in, or if you just are aware of what's happening, I'm sure you will understand what I'm trying to say, and will be able to relate to the fact that you can also see it happening in many different places. And it's an incredible time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be alive. And yeah, it's going to be an adventure, that's for sure. I'm just going to be interested to see how it pans out. I'll go into more detail about certain parts of that soon. Anyway, just had to say it. Thanks for watching.